I don't know what we're going to talk about. I was just thinking about my thing with gear is basically this. I want the very, very best thing for almost no money on most shit. Except for a few key mission critical things. Like most things, the very, very, best one you can buy for $100 is probably the best one in existence. Some things, the best one is $5. And you need to know that. And you need to be able to look at tools and weapons. I said tools twice. Tools and weapons and toys and fucking anything else that you're going to ever buy with that eye. Like, look for quality, not price tag. I look for whether something is well made. This is like some base level life philosophy, gear philosophy shit, right? It needs to be good enough to do the thing you need it to do. Anything past that's showing off. And I'm not about showing off with gear. Not anymore. You're talking to someone that at one point had... I had better shit than Delta Force did in 2015 and 2016. 2017. Better kit than Delta Force. Let that sink in. The goggles I was running, there were only 50 of in existence, and I was running a $25,000 thermal overlay with them in 2016 that didn't exist. It was like I was hanging out with some people that had them because they were selling 100 of them to like the collector civilian market as this technology was going to be fielded to Delta Force. But it hadn't gotten there yet. And like this was like, playing with that shit and Knight's armament guns. I've seen the best shit in the world. I've had the best kit in the world. Flat out. When I had some of the best kit in the world, you could have easily kicked my ass and taken it from me. About that. I've spent a whole lot of time, money, and energy in the last few years becoming someone that you can't take that kit away from. The knowledge gained in having that kit and training with that kit and using that kit is fundamental, right? And it definitely means that if I see some cool shit on the ground, I might pick it up because I know how to use it. Like, this is part of this. If you see me doing shit, know that. Know that if I thought that I needed a better one, I'd not eat until I had a better one. That's how I got most of the shit I've ever had in my whole fucking life. I've always been fat. And I've always been able to go really long periods without eating food. So, like, I kind of folded those two in together a lot of times. And, like, if I was really trying to save money, I just wouldn't eat lunch. It's not a recommended thing. And when I was really trying to save money and kind of went crazy and faked a plane crash and a lot of other shit. Whole bunch of shit all at once, trying to lose weight. I didn't eat for a month. I was 600 pounds. Most of you couldn't not eat for a month like that. Don't try that. At 600 pounds, I probably could have done a few months, believe it or not. This is one of those things that, like, it's not recommended, but I was no worse for wear for it. And it's something I wanted to do. A lot of things that I've done are something that I decided that I wanted to do. Be like Rick in Rick and Morty. Be certain of the things that you want to do and do them. It matters. And when it comes to gear, like, basically money will never buy you skill, but some things you need to spend a certain amount of money, right? And like, that's, you can learn a lot of this from going watching Nuttin' Fancy and talking to fucking Never Enough Ammo for a while. A few other people, like, they get it. It's one of the things I always liked about Never Enough Ammo. Is, if anything, he goes too far the other direction. And this is honestly why I enjoyed being the guy hanging out with Matt and the boys that had literally had cooler shit than them. And it's mainly because it's not like, oh, you're too poor to get whatever. It's your point of view comes from a place where you have not had this experience. And you're doing X, whatever it is, because you think that it's acceptable. And on some things, you're right. You're definitely right. And on other things, you're wrong. You know, Palmetto State, good. Delta Team Tactical, bad. Holosun in general, good. Vortex in general, good. Red Dot's not as probably good as Holosun. And it's one of those things, like, if you're making recommendations on what people should buy, you can say what you have, and that's fine or whatever, but, like, if you don't update your tech or whatever, or look around at what is available, like, your opinion matters less in some ways. And this is like some Nuttin' Fancy shit. That, like, you should be open to new technology, provided it is cost-effective, important, or life-changing. You know, there's other shit like that. Like, there's reasons to buy into technologies. Okay, and the Red Dot is pretty much technology that most people would agree that, like, you should probably own an AR-15 with a Red Dot on it. There are some scope weirdos like myself that if you could only own one, I'd have a scope, but, like, most people want a Red Dot. And if one company is decidedly better, which I would put it to you that basically Aimpoint makes the best Red Dots. Holosun makes really good knockoffs of an Aimpoint like T1 Micro. And thus far, the one that I've had since I bought it during the start of COVID. And it's been on a rifle that I carry with me pretty much everywhere during that time, several times. And when it wasn't, it was on my girlfriend's rifle. And it didn't get banged around as much then. But honestly, it's one of those. Yeah, we just weren't doing as much. My rifle didn't get banged around as much then either. But anyway, they're good optics. And they are the same price as a Vortex Spark or something else. And having owned a Vortex Spark and owned several Holosuns and owned several Aimpoints and owned a billion other fucking Red Dots because I like them, I can tell you without a doubt, hey, Aimpoint's the best. If you're not going to spend Aimpoint money, the winner of all the cheap ones is Holosun. That's, you know, I don't know how many times I had to say that on his chat because he recommended a Vortex Spark. That's one of those, you need to honestly, I don't know if I would upgrade if I already had the Spark. And that's where I definitely see where he's coming from. But if you don't have the Spark, you should definitely not buy one. It's like saying, you know, hey man, I am in love with my, you know, name a car that was cool 5 years ago that isn't cool now. I don't know much about cars. It's, man, I love Star Wars. I can't wait to see The Force Awakens. It's that shit. You're stuck in the past. Star Wars is dead. If anything, I would tell you my experience in gear, for the most part, has been, if you spend just a little bit of money, you can get pretty good shit. By that I mean, don't buy the cheapest version of it, but Palmetto State Armory versus Delta Team Tactical is exactly the point. Palmetto State Armory sells uppers for like $250, $230 sometimes. Delta Team Tactical, you can sometimes find them cheaper than that. However, the rifle that's, the upper that's $250 a fucking PSA is about a 10 times better gun than any of the ones sold at Delta Team Tactical. Why? Because it matters what type of parts that you use, and it matters how you put guns together. And the stuff that PSA does is like the right way to do things, in my opinion. And it reminds me of like a Colt rifle from the 90s or 80s, which isn't the greatest in the world, but it is a mil-spec gun. 110%. And I dig that. I dig that someone's putting them out for nothing, because honestly, those uppers don't cost a lot. You should get that PSA is making money selling them at that price. And I got distracted because I farted, and I know that you heard it, and there's nothing that can be done about it, and I like this video, and I'm not stopping it. And yes, occasionally, girls fart. I know I am an odd case or whatever, but there's a segue here that is sexual, and I'm going to take it. I dated a man briefly that towards the end of it, he started being weirder, and the thing that he was weirder about was whether or not I farted. And I do not understand why you would obsess over that. Don't understand it at all. Anyway, gear. Back to gear philosophy. I basically can't come up with a reason why I would ever buy a Knight's Armament rifle. I can't come up with a reason why I would ever buy, many things. If you have an AR-15 in mind that you want to buy that costs more than $1,000, $1,200, you should probably rethink your life. Consider it on the tree of woes. My rifle that I love, the base rifle, cost like $400. And this is why I'm saying, like, $1,200-ish. I built several guns that cost $1,200 in parts. They're very good. I've even bought a couple of AR-15s that were maybe $1,000, especially retros. But at the same time, it's one of those, like, if you need this shit to do certain jobs, don't look at it like some fucking whiz-bang thing that you have to have the coolest whatever. Look at it like a hammer. Like, I need a thing to drive nails with. I'm going to get the one that's best at driving nails. This is how you should be with a rifle. It's a fucking tool. Like, don't get me wrong. I have stuff on this thing that is for style, right? 110%. The roadie paint. And I made choices on here of things that I like that are effective that give it nom flavor. And some A2 vibes because, I don't know, this is my rifle for the end of the world and I wanted an M16A2 and I couldn't have one. So I have an A2 grip for a vert grip and I have a A2 handguard. It's all business though. the front sight not being folding bugs me. Oh, I really would like to put a folding arms front sight on this thing. It screams for it, doesn't it? You know, there's no frivolous shit really. The clearing rod, a lot of people wouldn't do. But my thought is, again, that basically this is a survival weapon. And as such, this could be the only thing that you have on you that fires bullets. And you could be a long way from help. So yeah, we're going to have a fucking rod on it. Like, if it's a rifle that you're just going to have in your house, and you have a rod in every corner of your house, then why would you need one, right? But I put it to you that in my house, there's not a rod in every corner of the house. There's one rod in the garage. And then there's the rods taped to this gun and in the handguard of the other gun. That's it. And the only rifle that doesn't have a rod taped to this house is my 22. I don't really see a reason to have one on there because it has the casing on a 22 has a rim on it. And you can put a knife in there and extract them. Less need to have a clearing rod to fucking tap cases out with, although it would be handy. It's one of those things that if you have material like blue jean denim or cotton or something like that, you can cut a patch and use the rod as a jag, basically, to clean with. Probably not 100% recommended, but it works. You know, it depends on how bad your gun is, right? And, like, that's where some of that denim material might be better, because, like, that thing's kind of pokey, you know? I don't really know where we're going from here, but the main point of this video is, if you think you have to spend a bunch of money on it, don't. And if you think you don't have to spend any money on it, that's something you might want to spend $100. Might even spend a couple $100. For example, the fanny pack. I spent $70 on this. Why? Mainly because I wanted one in camo, and I wanted it made to where it would never fail, basically, because I want this to be like a survival bag for combat, town, anywhere, whatever, right? Needs to go a lot of places. And I think the John Wayne camo is cool, and it blends in enough places. Doesn't stick out in enough places that, like, I like it. I was watching Hondo earlier today. The movie Hondo Lane. The movie Hondo has the character Hondo Lane in it. He's a gunfighter. It's a John Wayne movie. It's free on YouTube. You should go watch that shit. It's a good movie. It's a good way to be. He says that about his dog. I love the movie Hondo so much because you should get that Hondo Lane. Go watch that movie, every last bit of it, and get that is my grandfather that's speaking. Every time that man talks. Like, my grandfather saw that movie sometime in the 50s and decided that's how he was going to be. I swear to God. He liked John Wayne. And the fuck if he didn't try to be him? My grandfather... Interesting case. I like the Hondo Lane thing. And watching it makes me think of him because I see things that he did to me. Or, you know, whatever said to me, and like I didn't get at the time that he was referencing a fucking movie and that this shit was funny to him. He was laughing. Like, my grandfather had a great sense of humor, and everyone else in my family thought that he was hateful and mean and didn't ever have fucking fun ever. Didn't ever laugh ever, didn't have a sense of humor, period. My grandfather always laughed when I said shit. Usually because whatever I said was dark, 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 and true as fuck. You know? You didn't get his sense of humor. I did. And I enjoyed making that man laugh. In like a good way, not like as a clown or whatever, but like I'd say something to him in such a way that it'd be funny just to him. The time I made him laugh the hardest was his mom was making us salmon cakes for dinner. And the night before, she'd made us meatloaf. It's my great grandma Benny. And she put fucking broccoli and celery in the meatloaf. So when we came home and great grandma Benny is pulling out chocolate cupcakes out of the oven, I asked the obvious question that a 7-year-old would ask, and that is, are those the salmon cakes? My grandfather looked, kind of smiled. My great grandma was like, no, these are chocolate cupcakes. So no, I forget the exact exchange, but it was something. Let me get this right, because it was funny the way it happened. I came in and said, if those are the salmon cakes, I'm not eating them. That's what it was. And she was like, those are chocolate cupcakes. I'm like, I'm sorry, I've never seen salmon cakes before, and you said that you're making salmon cakes. We leave, I see you opening cans of salmon. I come back, there's fucking chocolate cupcakes sitting here warm. You said you're making salmon cakes. I can do math, old woman. There's fucking salmon in the cakes. Some of this may be me and the now commenting on it, but that was the exchange. It was funny as fuck. And it was mostly just if those are the salmon cakes, I'm not eating them. That was the line that basically caused him to go from smiling to belly laugh. Belly laugh, rolling on the floor. Had to recover himself. Hadn't laughed that hard in years. It's one of those, like, you're welcome. That's one of those things that, like, he'd never fucking comment about his mom's weird-ass cooking. Not in a million years. You don't dare say anything about that. And, like, the salmon cakes were fine. They were normal and great, and the chocolate cupcakes were great. But the fact that there was a reasonable doubt in most people's mind, in my opinion, and my grandfather's opinion, that, like, those could be the salmon cakes. So I'm going to ask, and I'm going to point it out that I ain't fucking eating chocolate salmon. Just flat out, you can do what you want to do, old woman. Like, I miss that, man. I miss her too. I don't know how we got onto that shit, but you don't need the best gear in the world. You just don't. Optics aren't a place to skimp. Guns aren't a place to skimp, usually. Flashlights, I've never paid too much money for one. However, every one I've ever bought was pretty much Surefire except for I had one Phoenix early on, and it did work, but I didn't run it very long. I have an Enforce now, and like the reason I went to Surefire mostly is because I had a couple of Streamlights. I have a couple Streamlights even now that my fucking go-to light on my rig for a handheld light is a Streamlight ProTac 2, and my go-to light on my handgun is a Streamlight TLR6. So I like Streamlight, but I had a Streamlight TLR1 that I did not like early on. It was just, I don't know, I didn't care for it that much, and then I got a Surefire X300 in trade for cheap, and it has such better controls. I basically gave the TLR6 to my uncle. It's like, I don't need this anymore. I had a holster and rig and shit made for it. I gave him the holster and everything because he had a fucking SIG 226 at the time, and I made that his Christmas present because, like, I just had to start over. And, like, that's so much... There's so much gear shit over the years that, like, I wasted money on. I really did. And, like, I think the biggest place that you could waste money is tactical nylon. I think most of it's pretty much fucking useless. You need to figure out what you're going to be wearing and what you're going to be doing, and that will determine whether you should have like a load-bearing belt suspender system, a fucking chest rig, or if you're going to have armor, then that's a completely different discussion, right? So you need to know if you're going to be wearing armor. If you're not going to be wearing armor, there's no reason to act like you are. I would never wear a fucking plate carrier if it doesn't have plates in it. Ever. Simply, the reason that we have plate carriers with mags on them is because we will have to wear the plate carrier no matter what. It might as well have mags strapped to it. All these people that are running around with plate carriers with no fucking plates in them, or like foam things to fill them out, you're a fucking imbecile. No offense, you are. Now, if you're doing that because you're going to get plates, okay. But if you're not fucking military, I honestly wouldn't bother with the plates. And, like, here's my reasoning. It's not a, oh, civilians shouldn't have that. It's a, I've owned body armor. I've worn body armor. And just in my opinion, it's the kind of thing that I would put on before I knew I was going to go get shot at. Anyone who has it and tells you different is a fucking liar. It's not shit you live in. It's just not. You can, and you'll wear out your body doing it. Like, this is part of the thing you need to get is, I've known people in my own personal life that have injuries that are armor related. Just wearing it every day. So I'm probably not going to live in armor, and I'm out of shape anyway, so who cares? And that's kind of my whole point is, I need every bit I can get. My armor is the Holy Spirit of God protecting me from the demons or whatever. God will reach down and stop them bullets. Or not. I don't really give a fuck. I don't think plates are going to save me from getting fucking massacred. Some shit. Like, this is like, what do you think's going to happen to you that you're going to need plates? What is this fantasy that you have in your head? Tell me. Because in my mind, here's what plates are useful for. Plates are useful for, like, oh, hey, we're going to go get into a gunfight, like I said. Or, hey, we're going to be defending this static position, and you're going to be this dude in a turret with a machine gun looking out over an expanse, that dude should wear fucking armor. 110%. Or you're going to be at Checkpoint Charlie doing fucking vehicle inspections. Those dudes should wear armor. There's a lot of dudes that should wear armor. What I'm telling you is that you probably ain't one of them. You're one of the dudes that will get shot trying to put his armor on. This is my thing, is most of my shit is for defending my home or defending myself on the road or for the end of the world, which we're currently experiencing. And in basically any scenario that I can come up with, short of joining some sort of frontline infantry unit or being stationed in Afghanistan or Iraq trying to police some unpoliceable thing, I just don't see that happening. And like, this is the other thing you ought to get, is there's a lot of people watching this that have never worn body armor that talk a lot about it. It's only like 20 pounds. Maybe a little more depending on what kind of plates you got and everything else. But like, assuming you don't have the lightest plates in the world, and assuming you don't have the lightest carrier in the world, and assuming that you're going to have some sort of fucking secondary armor and shit behind the plates and yada yada yada, you're going to wind up wearing at least 20 pounds worth of fucking gear at the end of the day. And that's on top of all the rest of your kit. And like, this is the thing you don't get, is you hearing me bitch about wearing 20 pounds of plates, and they're like, see, that's why you gotta lose weight, blah, 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 blah. I've been trying. Leave me alone. Second off, even if I lost the weight, it wouldn't change this part. And this part is, I'm carrying ammo and rifles and other shit. I would much rather carry a second rifle and 10 more magazines than those fucking plates. And that's how heavy they are. Is that worth it to you? What are you going to be doing? You know, I was talking to my uncle and we were talking about knife fighting. And a lot of people would hear us talking about knife fighting and laugh. But I made a comment in the middle of it that is my real beliefs about knife fighting. I don't plan to be in a knife fight. I plan to be in a stabbing. Yep. That's just one of those, like, hello, McFly. Like, all of these people that focus on the ridiculous idea of a knife fight and the Hollywood idea of a knife fight and the knife on knife fighting, that part is ridiculous. Watching Rambo and some similarly sized Rambo-esque dude from Vietnam both draw their fucking big knives on each other and slowly do their circle of death until they make love. Like, no, it's not realistic at all. That's stupid. Okay, in reality, most people that die from a knife never even fucking saw it come out. Alright. You know? It's quick. It's a stabbing. And, like, it's not plan A. But, like, do you plan for your life to go well? If so, then I envy you. My experience has taught me that life has ups and downs. And on those upswings, enjoy. On the downswings, you should be prepared. And always be prepared for bad to escalate to worse. And this is the thing my grandfather taught me that I think everyone listening to this should get, is the world attracts shit, right? So if it looks like sunshine and rainbows, and has been for a while, that's when you should feel the most uneasy, really. But at the same time, if you're watching something going to shit, and you're watching it get worse day by day, don't plan for it to get better. Basically. No, like, don't make all of your fucking opinions based on the first day of a fucking thing, right? Like, no one knew what to think the first couple weeks of COVID. Not saying to be hasty and jump into things or whatever, but at the same time, I don't know. Always be prepared for the situation to escalate, and for it to escalate in ways that it's not even the same situation anymore. It's fucking just fucked up. There's no good way to fix it. Nothing good that can be done. And it's times like that when you just gotta pick the way that's gonna hurt the least, basically. That's like when you're driving down the highway and you see a fucking cast iron chair fall out of the back of a truck and you're in between two semi-trucks. Like, start slowing down. That's all you can do. Like, you're not gonna run into the semi-trucks. Cast iron chair is gonna suck. It's gonna suck a lot. Not as much as fucking running into semi-trucks. Semi-trucks. Semi. Who cares? Pistols are a thing you should probably spend some money on. I would spend more money on a pistol than I would on a rifle these days. Because of how nice a cheap AR-15 is. Like, again, don't just go buy any cheap AR-15, but PSA. When it comes to pistols, the pistols that I would choose